welcome back to my channel, Theater from My View. I am Amanda Washington, and today I have not only my best friend, but an amazing artist and collaborator, Kennedy Salters. And we are going to talk all about her process and how she shows up in theater. But before we get into it, a few things. 1, I post a new video every Friday at noon. So 2, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel, because 3, next Friday's coming quick, fast, and boom, in a hurry, and you don't want to miss it. All right, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, let's get into it. Kennedy, thank you so much for coming on to the channel.
Yes.
The world.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay, so question I think I've asked about everybody. How do you get your roots in theater? Like, where did you start? Tell me this birthing story of, yes, I want to be a theater artist.
Sure. So high school, I saw a production of Into the Woods, and I can't remember why I was watching the production of Into the Woods, but I feel like you know how in high school sometimes they say, go see a show and write a paper, it was something like that, because I wasn't in theater classes yet. And I definitely was a person who was sitting in the seats, and I was like, oh yeah, whatever, like, what, I'm seeing a musical. Like, who's doing this? And then I remember when it started, the guy, or the man now, that was playing the narrator in Into the Woods, I could not get my eyes off of him. I could not. He was captivating me so much, and to this day I still fan over him, and I love him and his work and everything about him. Hey, Cody Jolly. Like, and I just was like, I gotta get a part of this. And the next year I was in like intro to theater, and then I took the class after that. And then honestly, I feel like the class that I took after that, because it was kind of late in high school, it was maybe my senior year, and then I just was like, I don't know enough yet, and I can't let this go, so I gotta go to school for it.
And then we met in college, and yeah, that's like how you kept expanding and growing.
Yep. So roots started in high school, went to college, met Amanda. Yeah, and then that was the basis for my training. And of course, like, since then, like, taking voice lessons and classes, and the work definitely like doesn't stop. And doing theater on the road is definitely I feel like a master class in a lot of ways too, of like learning things. But yeah.
Okay, so you perform, you sing, those combine to make musical theater, obviously. What else do you do?
Yes. So outside of that, I've kind of like taken on this version of saying, like, you know, mental health advocate, like mental health warrior. Right now I am in school studying to receive my degree in clinical and mental health counseling, that I'll be able to fuse into a specialization of drama therapy. I could have gone to school just to get certified for drama therapy, but I didn't want nobody telling me what my pinnacle of education was. And so I said, we're getting the clinical and mental health counseling degree. We're going to fuse it into the drama therapy, so I'm not almost pigeonholed with the masses and the people that I can reach. And so, yeah, that's kind of theater, that, friends and family, Baby Yoda, wine connoisseur. Okay, that's me.
Yo, this woman said Baby Yoda and wine connoisseur in the same sentence.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. So pigeonholed in theater, it's something that a lot of people have experienced. How do you combat that? Or, like, you're talking about how you're getting your degree with mental health and clinical therapy. Like, what it may be too early to ask you if you have any techniques yet, but just you as an artist, how do you get out of that hole? How do you feel as if you're expanding out of like these boundaries that people may have put you in? Because I know as Black women, we can get put into, for me as a director, only directing the Black shows, or for you, only doing the Black shows. So how do you like move out of those boundaries?
Right. I think so. I think one, if you can, creating your own opportunities. Literally, I feel like people say that all the time, but truly, I think if you can, creating your own opportunities or finding the people, like how Issa Rae says, network across, finding those people who want to do something similar to you do is one way if you have the means to do that. But in, I think, like practical ways in my realm of things, how I'm combating that is, say, for instance, even right now, intermittently in vocal lessons, instead of focusing on like, you know, how someone may say, okay, yeah, we need you to sing Effie White, or like, you know, waitress is like, oh yeah, can you come sing I Didn't Plan It Here, or these belter numbers, is working on the legit sounds of things. So going over the She Loves Me, singing over the more golden age and the showboats and things like that, and working on that. And that's something that's just like a goal of mine right now, to like get refined and even like to put it on tape so I can start when I'm like publicizing and marketing my brand, people can see, oh snap, like for instance, one day I want to play the witch in Into the Woods, yes, but I also want to be the baker's wife, you know what I mean? And I'm like, why not? Okay, she be cooking and eating bread, she need to be thick, okay? So, but that's a very more legit sound. Nobody would watch me walk into a room for Into the Woods and think, hi, my name is Kennedy Salters, and today I'm going to do a piece from this. I'm going to be auditioning for the role of the baker's wife. They'd be like, uh-huh. No. Like, you're supposed to be talking about greens and beans and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's like a self-reflection thing too. Like, what do you want to do that you want to start working on, and then saying, okay, this is what I want to do. So how do I get there?
It's kind of like activating your secret weapon.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I think so. And because people are going to look at you, especially because I've said this before and other people have said it, casting people, sorry, casting people, but also I'm not, if you're watching this, some casting people are the least imaginative people you're ever going to come across. So if, especially when it comes to, if you are an artist that likes performative arts, and you're finding yourself in one, getting casted in one thing, or excuse me, cast, some people are gonna be upset I said casted, cast in one thing, you need to ask yourself, okay, I'm getting cast in this one thing, but I really wanna do these things, so how do I get there?
Mm-hmm.
And it may not be an overnight thing. I may not play the baker's wife for another 10 years from now. I may not get cast in anything where I'm singing legit or I'm having a sound like that for a little bit. You know what I mean? I may be going towards my bread and butter for first, or before I fuse into the specialization of drama therapy. In order to get there, I have to do the groundwork in a certain amount of internship hours and just like counselor in training hours before I can level up to the drama therapy, because since I didn't want to be able to just do drama therapy, I want to be able to counsel anybody who comes to me, or counsel especially like brown people, people of color, like LGBTQIA plus people who come into the doors. I want to be able to give them counsel as well, in addition to being able to use theater techniques to reach optimum wellness. So I think you start with the foundation of this: what do I want to do, and how do I get there? Mm-hmm. And then how do I do little things each day, or little things as I can incorporate them in order to get there? And I think that's the roadmap to not allowing yourself to be pigeonholed. That don't mean you're not going to do, you know, a couple Effie tracks before you get there, but you know what I'm saying? Which Effie tracks are great, but
yeah. If you want to be tested, or if you want to expand your reach, sometimes you got to do those Effie tracks.
Mm-hmm. And that legit voice lesson is going to help you sustain in that Effie track. So
you're not wrong. Yeah. You're not wrong. Oh my gosh. Okay. So some of the, like, something that's your bread and butter is waitress.
Yes.
And so for those of you who don't know, Kennedy was Becky in the 2020-2019 national tour, correct?
Yes.
I think I got the years backwards, but
yep.
Yes. So, okay. One, did you ever foresee yourself getting that role so quickly?
No. I was with you in the foundation periods of that. Absolutely not. I did not know how to work Actors Access, really. I was messaging people like, how do I do this? Am I doing this right? What in the world is going on? I absolutely did not see myself getting it. When I went to New York to audition for that role, I was so scared. I had a sinus infection that I was fighting through. some other things that I was dealing with at the time, I did not know or expect. I was like, oh snap, there's a chance that I can get this. But there wasn't any part of me that thought a Georgia girl who is not based in New York was going to book the role who bows second to last in a national tour. I did not. I didn't. No.
I didn't plan it.
I didn't plan it. Okay.
Playing that game.
The light turned red and I ran it. Look. No, I didn't. So yeah, it was. Yeah.
Like, so how has that in a sense changed your life? Have you grown, or you're like, it's what I thought it would be?
Oh no, I've grown a lot. There are things that I expected tour to be like that I was super excited about, and there were also challenges that I encountered that I did not know I was going to encounter or go through. Like, for instance, like when you get booked on a regional production, the beautiful thing about being booked on a regional production is that you get to be housed for that, say, 1 to 3 months, depending on how long you're in rep or whatever you're doing, 1 to 4 months, whatever the situation is. Maybe you're an actual resident rep member and you stay on that housing for the season for 9 months or whatever. But when you're there, you have your own space. So like you get to go to rehearsal, you get to go do the show, but then you can come back to your actor housing or the housing that the theater provides, and you get to shut that door. Yeah, you probably have roommates. In some situations you won't, but you get to shut your door.
Yeah.
On tour, you don't really get to shut the door. You're with your castmates when you're flying to the location. When you're off, technically off, but traveling, you're with your castmates or your crewmates when you're traveling on bus to destination to destination. You have to, I learned that I had to be so much more on top of my health. I started taking a daily allergy pill because when you're changing environments, what happens when you go from North Dakota to Florida in a day? You're like, climate's changing, things are going on. What happens when the snifflies happen? Snifflies happen and the drainage happens. Drainage happens and the throat is sore. Zicams need to now go in. Sudafeds, I need the, it's a daily, like, keeping a stock of things with me, but taking that allergy pill, staying on top of water intake, paying attention to things like, when am I drinking coffee or when am I drinking teas, because those are caffeinated and those can dehydrate me and I don't need to be dehydrated for the show. I roll into the show. We don't have a lot of time today, but I need to warm up. I need to stretch my body. I have to get ready. It's like a whole nother level of management where Kennedy had to, because I'm like an introvert extrovert, where I do like hanging out with people, but I really need that time to myself. And it was difficult to figure out what is Kennedy like when she don't really have time to herself. Yeah. Because on tour, maybe you'll have a single bedroom, but in my case, I had a double occupancy room, which is sometimes can be great because you can come home, oh yeah, how's your day? But you don't really have that time to gather yourself. There were many a times I'm like, I need a second, and I had to go to the bathroom for that second. Because even in the lobby, you may see 3 other people that you work with because they're trying to escape too on FaceTimes or on Skypes or on whatever, in whatever place in the lobby. And so I learned a whole bunch and I grew a whole lot. How do you sustain belting out a track and supporting a cast of people when this week you have to do 12 shows in a row? Yeah. You got to do 12 shows in a row. You don't get a show off until after 12 shows. So yeah, I grew a lot. I figured out what my body needs and what my soul needs, and I'll be better for it when we go back on the road.
Oh, I love to hear that actors growing not only their talent but their soul, because it matters a lot, like what's going on in your mind and what's going on in your spirit. And that leads me into my next question. So, you are a board member, y'all. When Kennedy told me she was a board member, I was like, at the age of 25? But why not crush your dreams young? Like, crush them and then create new dreams. You are a board member for the Theater Mental House, which is located in Chicago, if I am correct.
Yes.
What is that like? Like, for those of us who are in arts administration or producers like myself, like, what? How does please, like, how did you get involved? Like, what's a little bit of your role, if you can talk about it and not hush hush? Like, tell us about Mental House.
Mental House. Okay, yeah. So Mental House is a theater that was created last year. It just so happened to be the year that COVID hit us, but that was created last year. And a huge part of the heartbeat and the mission of the theater is all of the work is devised, but the work is all devised from a place of mental health, some topic of mental health. And actually both of the founders, it's a married couple who are now based in Chicago. I met them when I worked in Little Rock, Arkansas for a little bit, doing an educational contract with Arkansas Repertory Theater. Don't let nothing get in the way of y'all dreams, y'all, or your goals, y'all. I dislocated my patella, but I said, you know what? I still want to graduate and I still want to work in the field. And so I contacted all of the professional contacts that I still had my senior year of college. Somebody pinged me back and said, you can't perform right now, but your energy's good. I know you're good with working with kids. Would you like to come work for this Equity House Regional Theater in Little Rock, Arkansas for a period of time? Did research, weighed the pros and cons, went, did it, met Catherine. And that's where we sparked up our relationship because she was the education associate at the time. And then when she finished her year, that at the end of that work year, she was actually going to grad school to study European devised theater. And she did a year in Berlin learning about these techniques and then came back to Chicago to finish her graduate degree. And then the conception of Mental House finally launched in 2019. And so she contacted me and said, this is what's happening. The theater is going to launch. We're doing this thing. Would you be a part of it? Because I really value your input. And they wanted to make sure that they were inclusive of diversity, of different perspectives. And that's when they brought me aboard. But we also had the relationship where she knows that I'm organized and I'm very task driven when I need to be in that mode of things. And so it's been interesting. It has been, I didn't expect it to be easy, but it is difficult. We meet once a month. Even when we're not meeting once a month, we are emailing back and forth. We're in the process of like, what does it look like to create your own bylaws on which this theater will stand? Of course, they'll be revised, I'm sure, through the years, but creating bylaws, figuring out what do we want the image to be, like starting and like stepping out on faith and posting things, but also being open to the fact of like, listening to what people are saying to us about the way, maybe marketing looks and all of that. So yeah, that's where we are. We meet once a month. We actually have one of our board members are actually deaf. And so it's been really remarkable to like know and like come on and like this, like my name, Kennedy, my sign when we meet, but to come on and, I never thought about, closed captioning. When you go see a show in person, is there any closed captioning? No. So it's been cool to be a part of something that is inclusive of, whether you're skin type or whether even if there's like, say, what someone may call a handicap. But it's been work, but it's been good work. So, yeah.
When you were saying all that, it kind of sparked us in college. And I was like, Kennedy was made for this because you were the president at Alpha Psi Omega, our chapter, for 2 years. And I was like, It makes complete sense now that you're talking to me about it, that you are on a board. It makes complete sense.
It's really interesting to switch gears because for our board meetings, because we are still little, I started to take minutes. And so I'm like switching gears, like, what was that? Okay. And okay. It's like, so it's been cool to like switch gears, play different roles and like be a part of this.
That's so great. Okay, my final question, which may spark an entire conversation, and that's okay. Where do you see theater headed? Like with the Me Too movement happening within the past 7 years, and then we see You White America. Where do you see it heading in the sense of how do we hold PWIs, predominantly white institutions, theaters, accountable for, okay, you say you're going to include diversity, not just with BIPOC artists, Black, Indigenous, people of color, but people a part of the LGBTQIA plus community, or people who make up the disability community. Where do you see theater going with being more inclusive with everything that's happened in the world? Do you see it really changing, or like, where's your thoughts on this?
Right. Honestly, it honestly depends. But it depends on the theater, to me, in my opinion. If the theater is an institution that at its core really cares about people of color, people who have sexually diverse orientations, who may be handicapped or disabled, I think it depends on who they are at the core, if they actually change something. Because change will only happen if the person that's instituting the change wants it to happen. So people posting black squares and doing all of this, telling us how woke they are and how much they care about us, that's one thing. But that's because the optics look good for them to do it. But what I want to know and what I want to see and be a part of is your action. So if they actually want to change, I believe that they'll take the action to change. But here's where I think we can hold them accountable. Just how people say like, oh, like don't shop there, like these people did this or whatever. And it's almost like, well, I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is and I'm gonna go over here and support Black, or I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna support local and I'm gonna shop at this Asian market versus XYZ. I think that's going to be up to us, whether like if I audition for that theater and give my time and my energy and my gift to you, or if I give my money that I've worked hard for to you, which may be difficult, but we are the ones at this grassroots level who has to organize and who has to make them be accountable, if that makes sense. So I really don't know, because there's a lot of people who say, oh, I'm inclusive, or, oh, you know, I care about this, but I think a lot of that, Amanda, could be because optics look good. I'm gonna believe it when I see it consistently, because consistency is everything. But I think we, as the consumers, we can make a difference with who I decide to give my money to, but also we as artists who are directors and costumers and wig builders and actors, I think we can decide, you know what? This theater's still not with it. And when I walk in the room, XYZ, or these people still talk to me like this, or I know fellow allies or people of color or marginalized people have still been treated like this. So we're not doing this. But I think it's going to take us to truly do that. And I know that's easier said than done, because at the end of the day, everybody's out here just trying to get an opportunity. But at what cost? That's the question that I have for us right now. Opportunity at what cost? If I can't rest at the end of the day, if I don't have peace at the end of the day, my friend made me this little poster, and it's actually sitting right here, and it says, if it costs you your peace, it's too expensive. And so if at the end of the day, I know that you, say for instance, you share something with me and say, man, I went in this theater and they treated me like this, then I have to be like, I have to decide to truly be an ally, because I know you wouldn't lie about something like that and say, I'm not auditioning for them. And if somebody asks me about them, I will tell them the truth, because I think it's up to us to truly organize and hold people accountable.
Yeah.
So that's what I think. And so I really don't know, because the fact of the matter is, a lot of the money people are white. A lot of the people who own these institutions are white. And I'm not saying because you're white, you're not an ally. I'm just saying you're white. So if you decide to turn a blind eye or decide that you don't care anymore, you can do that, because that's your white privilege.
Two things. Okay. One, that goes back, what you were saying goes back to, you have to create your own opportunities. And like, you can elevate, you can start small and get big. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with starting from the grassroots and getting bigger. Two, yes, a lot of things are backed by white money, old money. And so
that generational wealth, baby, that we never learned anything about. We didn't learn nothing about that. They don't want us to know that in our educational system. Woo, but Lord.
Look, our kids will have generational wealth.
And they're gonna know because we self-teaching around these parts. We figuring it out.
Mm-hmm. But that goes back to something I'm really adamant about my job. One of my jobs is that the work we produce, if we say it's for BIPOC people and it's written by BIPOC people, performed by BIPOC people, something I'm really trying to drill into them is that it needs to be produced by BIPOC people, because it's not that they don't exist. We just don't know where they are. You got to go find them. And it's so easy to call up somebody you know who has money, who you know already supports the theater. But a part of change is being uncomfortable. Like, you grow when you're uncomfortable because you're in that learning phase. You're in that phase of asking so many questions. You're in the phase of, I really do think I will fail, but all of a sudden you get the wind under your wings and you take flight. So I'm very, at my job, I'm like, this, while it can have white people money on it, I want majority of this money to come from producers of color. And I try to tailor it to specific people, like for specific projects. I just don't want anybody produce like backing up my work. But yes, like, I think that's a really big part of our art is who's producing it. That gets into a lot of films that are coming out right now about how I don't approve of their casting choices, and then you look at who's producing it and it's like, oh, well, they're not of the culture, so they wouldn't know that this is slightly offensive, or not even slightly offensive. Let's call it what it is. It is offensive, and there's so many other people you could have chosen for that role. So yeah. Oh my god.
I don't know. I think it's gonna take people like us that's being passionate about it and like essentially building our empire. So eventually we can put our money into our own work, but we can also put money into our people's work and people who we care about work. And I'm not saying that white people can't produce things, because we know for the most part they have the money right now, but we need to know that they're the real deal in the sense of like, they are doing their homework, their work, they're listening, they're providing equitable seats at the table, not just a seat at the table for show, but equitable seats at the table, and that they're really listening and going with the guidance of what the experts say, which in the situation would be you, the director, or whoever that person of color is, or that BIPOC person is, like listening to them.
I completely agree. Kenny, thank you so much for coming on to the channel. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Oh yes, I forgot to ask the big question. How can the people keep in contact with you if they want to keep in contact with you?
The people can keep in contact with me if they want to. My social media on Instagram is at the Chalk Drop. THECHOCDROP. You can also, if it's a theatrical inquiry or even just a business inquiry, you can email me at Kennedy O as in Olive Salters@gmail.com.
Alrighty, thank you so much for coming on the show. Everyone else, I will see you all next Friday. Bye.